Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where today you join me in the brand new Aero Ferrari dealership in London. It has just opened, and with that they've had the launch of the new Ferrari SF90 Stradale. This is the first time that the SF90 has been shown outside of Maranello, and today we can take a look around to go through the brand new 1000 horsepower Ferrari hybrid in detail. Now this is a car that I am very excited about. It looks incredible, the technology is amazing. So let's get started then with a walk around to go through Ferrari's new SF90 Stradale. Here it is then, the car that I've come to see today, and we'll start off with a walk around to go through all of the details. I'm going to show you around the exterior. We'll jump on board where there is a big upgrade and improvement to some of the interior technology, the dashboard, the steering wheel and the controls, and some very trick features to this new car as well. But it's presented here inside the brand new and only just opened Aero Ferrari London dealership, the first dealership with the new styling. And we'll take a look at the atelier as well later on, where customers configure their cars. Alongside here as well, we have the first of the Icona series, the Monza SP1. But we are here, of course, today to take a look at this, the SF90 Stradale, named after Scuderia Ferrari for their 90th anniversary, having been founded back in 1929. The car presented, of course, in 2019, and it was launched to around 2,000 customers or so at a private event held at the Fiorano test track in Maranello. But now the first time it's been shown away from that, and an opportunity for me to show you around this car, to go through it all. So let's start then, just with a walk around. You'll notice it's got an elongated nose. Of course, aerodynamics are very important. It has 380 kilos of downforce at 250 kilometers an hour, despite having a body that really screams and shouts. That's what it's about. But of course, 1000 horsepower, and actually the fastest Ferrari around Fiorano, completing the lap time with a difference of 64 meters ahead of the LaFerrari. But this is very much a different proposition. Where the LaFerrari was their first hybrid, offering just shy of 1000 horsepower at 963 metric horsepower. In fact, that was a limited edition vehicle, a special hypercar, whereas this is a hypercar in terms of performance, but it's also a series production. Their first hybrid that is going into series production. It's expected they'll make just shy of 2,000 units or so. But what really stands out to me about the SF90 is the price tag. You look at this, you think 1000 horsepower, you're expecting £1 million. You're expecting it to come in with the likes of the Aston Martin Valhalla, Mercedes AMG 1, perhaps some of those kind of cars. In reality, this car is about £400,000. Yeah, £400,000, less than $500,000, about half the price of a McLaren Senna, for example. And what you get for that is absolutely phenomenal. Let me just come round, we'll go through everything. I'll open up the engine bay and show you how deep and low the engine actually sits inside. We'll also take a look at the interior so I can run you through the new curved display and the touch controls that you have on the steering wheel and also in the center. But to start around the exterior and to go through this, let's begin right at the very front. Integrated into the bodywork, you've got a lot of aerodynamic features going on. So for example, like on the Pista, you have an S-duct. Air can come through the front, it can come up and out. That keeps some downforce over the front axle. Of course, up front, you've got the 2 electric motors that mate to the engine, a 3rd electric motor going on back there. You have about 770 horsepower or so from combustion engine, and additional 230 horsepower that comes from the electric system that's connected to that. You can drive the car in full eDrive mode. You couldn't in the LaFerrari, so you've got about 15 miles of range when you put the car into eDrive. If you go all out though, use all of the power, it will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 2.5 seconds. That's 62 miles an hour. It will go on to 200 kilometers an hour. That's 124 miles per hour in just 6.7. That is very, very quick, and onto a top speed of 340 kilometers per hour, 211 miles per hour. So clearly, performance numbers out of this are absolutely incredible. Now, more on the aero, have a look at this, have a look around the front. Look how much it cuts back underneath that front nose, how much it has by way of openings for airflow to come through. Even this new headlight design that you have, look at this, even this is open for airflow to come through, for cooling to go through to the brakes, for example. Around the car, all the cutaways, all the design. Here, a little almost gurney flap just to flick air around the side. Some louvers here, again, controlling airflow that goes around the side of the car. Obviously we've got lots of exposed carbon fibre, but the car presented here in Rosso Corsa, Ferrari's traditional paint colour. This car doesn't have the Assetto Fiorano pack that's available, the lighter weight pack that takes away 30 kilos with a number of different changes to the vehicle as well. For example, a different forged wheel, carbon fibre doors, a carbon spoiler as well, stickier tyres, a few changes, but most importantly, titanium springs for the suspension. The Assetto Fiorano pack takes away bumpy road mode, but makes it a lot more hardcore, a lot firmer, and much more suited to the track. But this, as it's presented here, is a 1,000 horsepower car with a new 8-speed dual clutch gearbox, which I rather imagine is going to be quite usable out on the roads. A car that you could probably get away with actually driving and using, which in this horsepower race is something that you actually lose a little bit. Now as we continue down, more airflow and aerodynamics here, for example, around the mirrors. One thing I particularly like is doing away with the door handles that I don't think anybody particularly liked from, say, the 488 and the F8 and the Pista, where you had something kind of flimsily attached on the exterior. In this case, you've got these pieces which would work keylessly. You'd have the key in your pocket, put your fingers in here, it pops open, simple as that. Now it's built around a new aluminium chassis. It would help if I close the door a little bit more firmly. There we go. So a new chassis built specifically for this car to house the engine as low as you're going to see it in a moment. Around here, of course, you've got these large openings for the cooling. You can see the radiators inside, more carbon fibre trim pieces as well. But then you come around towards the back, and this is an angle that I really, really like about this car. The rear deck itself, look at it, look how it's almost this kind of smooth wedge going towards the back. But again, it's also about aerodynamics. It also gives you a fantastic view through towards the engine. But back here, you've got this integrated spoiler. Look at how much airflow can squeeze out and go under that. But also this section, which is in carbon fibre on the Assetto Fiorano, actually pivots. That works as an active, almost air brake to help with downforce as well. And then around the rear, you've got the twin headlights, slightly squared off in their design, the floating prancing horse, the Cavallino, just sitting up into the opening, a nice touch on a Ferrari. You've got their now familiar style, I would say, with the tailpipes, the way they sit high and proud, one either side of the centre. And then down at the back, the styling all very aggressive. But look at this with the diffuser fins. They've actually got openings, they're hollowed out slightly, which I assume is to do with downforce. And then underneath the car, have a look under here, you've also got all of these turning vanes that you can see to direct airflow going through around the underside, the cooling of the brakes, and also helping keep the car absolutely planted, which of course is exactly what you want if, let's say, you're traveling at 340 kilometers per hour. But looking at this, it's just got such a good look to it. It's clearly positioned above, say, the F8 Tributo, the combustion engine, turboed combustion engine, two-seater mid-engine Ferrari. In this case, two-seater hybrid mid-engine Ferrari. So I'm going to open up the engine bay, pop open the driver's door. We will come and go through all of this in a moment, just to give you a quick look. 16-inch curved display for the dashboard, all of those touch controls on the steering wheel, some driving modes, the styled piece in the center for selecting different options, driving options, that looks a little bit like a gated manual of old. But to open up the engine bay, let's just come around here. I'm going to have to hold this up. There is actually a piece on the right hand side which you would pop down and mount just in there to hold it open. But look at how low the engine sits. This is boggling my mind. It's so deep down inside there. You've still got the window for some rear visibility as well, but the engine sitting right down at the bottom, basically a bored out version of the 3.9, now the 4-litre twin turbo V8, looking beautiful as always. Ferrari do a magnificent job of that, but you can also spot some orange cabling, particularly through those vents. That is of course all to do with the hybrid system. But the centre of gravity being kept very, very low. The car weighs just 1,650 kilos, but that's really quite impressive. And then you have this great glass view through it. Of course, we've got some reflections at the moment, but just drop that down so it locks into place. Now, obviously, you've got two openings. On the right, as always, the fuel filler cap. On the left, you have the hybrid universal charger. So you could technically plug this into the charging points that are just outside and park it up as a hybrid vehicle. Tail lights illuminated at the moment. I like the design of those. Also like how you've got this kind of styling but functional piece as well in terms of airflow being released there out of the back of the wheel wells, also up here at the top. But there's a lot of sculpture, shaping, dynamic look to the car everywhere you go around it. Of course, we've got the contrast of the black roof, the black driver canopy, against the Rosso Corsa of the main body. But to take a step then inside, this will be literally my first time sitting inside the SF90 Stradale. Let's do this. Have a look around here. Oh wow, look at that view. Look at that view. That is incredible. Of course, this is Ferrari's new generation of steering wheel. The dashboard, hopefully, we'll try and wake it up in a second, this being a pre-production car, of course. The flap here to open the electrical charging port, fuel cap to open the front. But on the dashboard, you've got a number of your different driving modes, eDrive, hybrid, qualifying, your Manatino that we're familiar with, but all of this is touch controlled. And then in the center, this is what I was referring to, they've styled your selector here. So for example, that's reverse, that would be automatic, that would be manual, and that's launch control, but styled like an old gated manual on a Ferrari. Just looks really, really nice. Very cool touch. Looking around, quite simple in the sense of not having distractions, very much being about the driver focus and what you have right in front of you. There's a little bit of storage up front, some space lost versus the other mid-engine V8s, because of course you've got some electric motors going on up there. So there's a little bit of space on the parcel shelf behind, and then that view out the back behind us as well. It's really very cool. Even up on the roof you've got these touch controls. So the interior has had a complete makeover, a complete update, totally new look versus other models before this. What will happen then if we press or touch on the engine start stop button here in the center? It's waking up, you get that nice splash screen, prancing horse, and then the central rev counter, still bright, bold and in the center, as you previously have seen in different Ferrari models. You have the Manatino, which will change the modes, but of course you notice immediately you have things such as the electrical range, as well as the fuel range. There'll be more information that's flanking on either side, but remember, we're not fully engine woken here. This Manatino also has those lights behind it, but you can see dropping it down to race mode, and one further, we go down into sport mode, the animations that go with that, and then down into wet mode as well. So you can see how that works. Because right up at the top, to the right, holding it is where you turn ESC off, and then you've got 1,000 horsepower and 800 Newton meters available underneath your right foot as well. On the dashboard then, the speedo, your gear selector. Then just to go through the steering wheel a little bit more really, and the different controls, your lights, these are your different modes, which are all touch controls. Oh hello, put it into performance mode. We go into eDrive mode, not at the moment on here, but that is also signified up towards the top left. On the left hand side, things like your camera controls, your nose lifter. The Assetto Fiorano pack doesn't have the nose lifter, so that is one thing to consider in regards to this. These are your mirror controls with a D-pad, almost a touch D-pad, some more of your light controls next to that. Over towards the door, your memory seats. It's a comfortable car. You still have electric seat controls and memory seat positions, and the button to open the door, the electronic door button release that you have alongside that. Around to the steering wheel as well, didn't touch on the media controls. Your indicators still can be controlled from your thumb, also with your fingers around through the back. The shifter paddles are ginormous, the size of the 360 Challenge Stradale. Love that. Fixed to the column, not to the steering wheel, but Ferrari shift paddles are always one of the best things. Although it'd be nice to have them in carbon fibre, that's for sure. That will presumably be an option to have available as well. On the right side you've got your wiper and the toggle as well for this, and then some of your media controls, and the same goes for the shift paddle. Then you've got your climate control settings here, more touch panels, touch controls, basically touch controls just about everywhere inside here. Coming further down, a small storage area. Down here you've got a USB port, maybe you can save some track telemetry data on there. Cup holders that have this piece that kind of flips over, you release it, and you can store your drinks down there as well. What else do we have? SOS button, hazard lights, you can see this illuminated now with reverse, auto, manual and launch available too. Your mirror controls, a slot here to place the key, your armrest that you can open up with an Apple CarPlay port and a cigarette socket as well. And then just a quick look around at the seats that we've got here with the central contrast line down the middle, contrast stitching as well. Just in general, it's a really, really nice place. Your air vents in the center and up towards the edge, the way they're designed, but very, very driver focused when you're sitting inside this car. And what you're actually looking at. Very driver focused indeed. Quite an impressive display, it has to be said. I really like this. I think this is all very, very nice. Quite a small steering wheel, but the way this has been done, without having to take your hands off, you'll be able to find exactly what you need. Is super, 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 super smart. Top marks on that. With the driving modes,
eDrive. You've got that blue display that comes to life. You can see the percentage usage that you have there. One further press into hybrid, you get the yellow Rev Counter. You've got the surround around that will show you the boost and the charge. And then you can go into performance as well. The Rev Counter gets a touch larger, very prominent in the center. That's how you go back and forwards between the different driving modes, just touching the mode that you'd like to have the car in. Just found another display to quickly show you inside. Here we've got My Drive. You can see some of the bits of information about the car, I guess a report of your drive, and also that spinning kind of render of the SF90 in the center, along with different charts, and I guess the different usage of various modes on the Manettino on the right, and the e-Manettino on the left with the driving modes. That's quite cool. Good to see the 16-inch display, completely illuminated, curved display, and some more information out of it. And no doubt there's a lot more to see actually with the full final vehicle when it's all alive and awake. And then switch of the button and the car is turned off. So let me step back outside, carefully does it, very delicately. Look forward to being able to experience what that's going to be like to drive. So I do need to get in the habit of closing the doors a little bit more firmly, but I'm being delicate, just knowing that at the moment this is the only one of these that has been shown. And here we are able to have a look at it. Just look at the almost boomerang shape around the front, the way it very much has kind of shark nose coming towards that point where you have the Ferrari badge worn proudly there. So I think it's a good looking thing. It's one of those cars that when you've seen the original pictures and some of the renders, doesn't quite fully portray the entire story. And then when you see it in person, it's quite a large car, I think. It's quite wide, potentially the widest Ferrari, but it really has a lot of presence and very much is going to deserve its status as, well, is it an entry-level hypercar? Is that what we call it? It's certainly hypercar performance, but it's not traditional hypercar money. They've done something really, really clever with this, launching this thing at the price point that they have. But just to quickly whiz you through the other cars that we have here, or the other car that we have here, I should say, the Monza SP1. Their open-top Icona series, the SP1 and SP2 being based on the same platform with an 820 horsepower naturally aspirated V12, paying tribute to the legendary Ferrari Monza. The one being a single-seater with a single buttress, the two has an open passenger seat with a second buttress as well behind that, of course shaped for the Aero. But this thing, I just absolutely love what it is. A long, open-top, Barchetta style, really, really nice. And I think the first time the SP1 has been shown here in the UK as well. If we then come through, have a look back here at the design of this. Almost a lounge and bar, but this is where customers will come to spec up their cars. They can go in there, see all the different options, the wheels, you've got the different leathers, you've got steering wheel options, those rotating doors can be closed up, you can go through paint samples, but the ambience of this is actually really, really nice. Memorabilia on display, books, things to look at, and of course, places to chill as well, helmets, all sorts of different things on display, and yes, very, very, very nice. Literally, as I said at the beginning, just opened. This is the latest styling of a Ferrari dealership, and this is the way to launch it in style with this. And an interesting thing, by the way, when you put the car into eDrive, you might not have thought about this, eDrive uses the electric motors at the front. That means this is technically the first front-wheel drive Ferrari. That's quite a funny concept, isn't it? They've never previously made one. But you can drive for 15 miles, literally with all of the power, 230 odd horsepower, going through the front wheels only, rather than anything from the combustion engine at the back. In hybrid mode, it would switch in and out with the engine shutting off, waking back up. More the philosophy, I would say, in terms of hypercar, that Porsche did with the 918 Spider. This is that kind of usable hypercar level of performance. That's certainly what I hope it's going to offer and be able to do when, fingers crossed, one day there is an opportunity to drive and experience it out on the roads. Then of course you've got the different modes as well beyond that, performance and qualify, where it will give you more performance, much more power, qualify, all guns blazing, drain the battery, one lap, one hit wonder, as quick as you can go. And I guess it's going to be very, very quick indeed. So the standard wheel option is running a P0 with a Sato Fiorano. You get a more hardcore, stickier rubber, more track-focused tyre. But what's, I guess, particularly interesting to me is that this is the first time I think 1,000 horsepower has come in a car
that you can probably actually use. I know this is a strange one, but normally if you're talking, you know, Koenigsegg's, these hypercars, this kind of thing, they're so brutal, aggressive, and powerful that they're actually quite hard to approach. And that's what Porsche did so well with the 918. And now Ferrari have taken that game on again with the way that they've done this. And the price point they've introduced it at, that's really something to take in. There's an uplift, of course, for the Assetto Fiorano, but a spec car might be mid 400s in pounds. That's not a lot of money for what you're getting. That's genuinely impressive. Very, very, very impressive. So, a first opportunity for me to take a look at the new SF90 Stradale. I hope you've enjoyed this video, being able to see a little bit more about how this car works. A huge thanks, of course, to Ferrari and to HR Owen Ferrari here in London for the opportunity to come in and be able to show you their latest and greatest. That is it for this time though. Thank you very much as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.